Everyone remembered the moment the microphone dropped, because it was the exact second the entire graduation ceremony froze. A scream, sharp and terrified, cut through the cheerful music. And when all eyes turned, they saw Blake Carter, the school's notorious bully, grabbing the quietest girl on campus by her gown while she struggled to breathe. But no one expected what happened only 5 seconds later, when a massive white wolf appeared out of nowhere and changed everything. Lila Rowan had spent 4 years of high school trying to be invisible. She was the kind of girl who ate lunch under the old oak tree with a book in her hand, who apologized when someone else bumped into her, who whispered instead of spoke. Her kindness made her noticeable, but to bullies like Blake, it made her an easy target. Blake believed he owned the school. He had rules, unspoken but enforced by fear. His biggest one, no one sat on his steps, outside the gym. Lila had accidentally broken that rule twice over the years, and Blake never let her forget it. She avoided him like a shadow avoids the sun, hoping the day of graduation would be peaceful. But peace was never something Blake allowed. The ceremony was halfway through when Lila's name was finally called. Her heart thudded as she stood, clutching her cap, taking careful steps toward the stage. Her father wasn't in the crowd, he was deployed overseas, and her mother was juggling 2 jobs, unable to attend. Lila had accepted long ago that applause for her would be polite, quick, forgettable. But as she reached the stairs leading up to the stage, a rough hand jerked her backward. Blake. He towered above her, his face twisted with anger. You think you can walk up there like you didn't break my rules? He growled, loud enough that the first rows turned their heads. You sat on my steps again this morning. I was tying my shoe, Lila whispered, trembling. Blake, please, not today. But Blake didn't care. He shoved her hard against the wooden railing. Gasps erupted. Even the principal froze. Lila tried to stand straight and hide her shaking, but her eyes burned with humiliation. Her big day, her one chance to feel seen, was being ripped away. Then it happened. A low, thunderous growl rolled across the football field. Everyone turned. From behind the stage, emerging like a ghost from a dream, walked a massive white wolf, fur shimmering under the sun, eyes glowing an impossible shade of ice blue. It was silent, powerful, terrifying. And it was walking straight toward Lila. Students screamed. Parents scrambled from their seats. But Lila, she didn't move. Her tears were still frozen on her cheeks as the wolf approached her slowly, head low, gaze fixed. Blake stumbled backward, his bravado instantly dissolving. What the? But the wolf didn't even look at him. Instead, it gently placed itself at Lila's side, pressing its head against her trembling hand. The crowd fell into stunned silence. Lila's breath hitched. Shadow, she whispered, because this wasn't a random wolf. It was her wolf, her childhood companion. A wolf that had saved her once when she got lost in the mountains at age 9. A wolf that had disappeared mysteriously, leaving Lila with only memories and the nickname she secretly loved, Wolf Girl. She had never told anyone, not even her mother, that she had once shared a bond with a wild animal. People wouldn't believe it, but he was here. He came back. Shadow lifted his head and watched her with intelligence that made people forget breathing. Then he stepped forward, baring his teeth at Blake with a growl so deep the ground seemed to vibrate. Blake dropped to the floor like his knees had given out. It wasn't serious. I was just. Shadow advanced 1 step. Blake scrambled backward like a child and fell flat in front of the entire school. Laughter burst from the crowd, but Lila didn't laugh. She simply stood there, protected by the creature who had never once judged her for being shy or small or different. Shadow stopped just inches from Blake and let out one final growl, short, sharp, warning. Blake fainted. The teachers finally rushed forward, but Shadow remained calm, sitting beside Lila as if he belonged there. The principal approached cautiously. Miss Rowan, is this your animal? Lila swallowed, looking down at the wolf with shining eyes. He's my friend. The principal hesitated, then nodded. Well, your friend saved the ceremony. He turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. Shadow escorted Lila up the stage as if she were royalty. Cameras flashed. Students whispered. Parents stared with awe. For the first time in her life, Lila didn't look down. She held her head high, her steps steady. Shadow walked at her side, matching her pace. When she reached the podium, the applause wasn't polite. It was thunderous. Her mother, who had rushed in late and stood at the back of the field, burst into tears. Even teachers who barely knew Lila clapped fiercely, proud and stunned. With the diploma in her hands, Lila finally let herself breathe. She looked at Shadow, who nudged her gently, as if telling her she had always been stronger than she believed. But the moment came when Shadow had to leave. The police insisted he be guided back toward the woods beyond the field. They were scared, unsure, confused. Lila followed him to the edge of the forest. He stopped, turned, and locked eyes with her. "You came back for me," she whispered. Shadow leaned his head against her chest for one long, heartbreaking second. Then he slipped into the trees and vanished like a ghost. Lila stood there, wiping her tears, her heart full, not with sadness, but with power. Because the shy girl had learned something that day. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply stands, with a wolf at its side. She returned to the ceremony stronger, brighter, different. And Blake, the video of him fainting went viral. He transferred the next semester. But Lila never needed revenge. She had something far better. She knew her worth. She knew her strength. And she knew, deep in her heart, that even if Shadow wasn't beside her physically, he had awakened the wolf inside her, the one that had been quiet for far too long.